We left off, the Gemara had said that the Nesiim, who represented each of their tribes, they acted, although they were minors who they were acting on their behalf, it's based on the principle of Zochon Lodem Shelo B'Fanov. Okay? But it's not Shlichus. So we went through how Rashi would learn the Gemara's answer and how Tosfos would learn the Gemara's answer. We had said that the Ramban, who brings a proof from this Gemara, that Zchiyah is Lav Mitam Shlichus, right? That clearly Zchiyah has no relevance to Shlichus. It's clearly he's learning like Tosfos. Correct? That appointing an agent and Zchiyah is one and the same. Because otherwise, he has no proof. When the Gemara says Zchiyah, if he would learn like Rashi, as we explained based on the Ktsos, that the Torah points to Shliach. So when the Gemara answers Zochon Lodem Shelo B'Fanov, there's no basis to say that the mechanics is not Shlichus. Correct? You follow what we did? Just continue from yesterday. Right? So if the Ramban is bringing this as a proof that Zchiyah is not Mitam Shlichus, that Zchiyah, the inner workings of Zchiyah is unrelated, that the person is your agent, he's bringing the proof. Evidently he's clearly learning that why, when a person wants to do an act on behalf of another person, why is it effective? Because it's the equivalent of you appointing that person as your agent. So again, we have the problem with a minor. A minor cannot. So evidently, the context and the mechanics of Shlichu, of Zchiyah is unrelated to the Zchiyah, to Shlichus. Has nothing to do with that. That's not Zchiyah. You put it in her hand. You just put it in the person's hand. She's divorced. It has nothing. She doesn't even have to acquire it. No, she has to be put in her domain. Her domain is her hand. That's it.
According to Rashi, the Torah appoints as the agent. How does the child acquire?
Because the agent is the child. What is lacking in the child? Das. The agent is the child. The agent has das.
The agent is the Nasi.
So the Nasi has the capability. The Nasi is the child. But a child who has halachic, his intent has halachic value. Because he's an adult. Because he's an adult. Why is he the child? Because they're appointing him to be the representative of the child. The only reason why a child can't have a representative because he can't appoint a representative. But if the Torah does the appointing, Torah never said a child cannot have a representative. The question is, how do we get over the hurdle? It's a catch-22. Torah says, we intervene. That if it's a schus for the child, we appoint the agent on behalf of the child. So we've got beyond that point.
So the Torah does the appointing.
Right. But now what is the function of the Nasi? Who is the Nasi now? He's an effective child. Because he doesn't have the handicap and the issues of what a minor is. Because he is, factually, he's an adult.
Does the Beit Din have this ability as well? This ability of the Torah to appoint an agent.
No.
Does the Beit Din
No.
have such an ability?
No. Well, we're going to discuss that's the next Gemara coming up. That's the concept. The court appointing a guardian to oversee a minor's assets or estate. That's the next Gemara coming up.
It's not the same. The
Maybe
court,
yes.
The Sanhedrin cannot say, just the way the Torah says, we're appointing...
No. The consequence could be similar, but the mechanics cannot be. You understand? The Torah, I'll give you an example. A minor is an heir. So how does the minor acquire it? The answer is because the Torah transfers it into his domain. But what's the acquisition? You have to do it, you don't know. Inheritance is not an acquisition. Let's say a person would say, we speak about there's rabbinic inheritance and there's Torah inheritance. Well, let's say a husband has certain rights in the assets of his wife when he marries, but the rights are rabbinic rights. Rabbinically, they give him the rights. And the person says, it's a mission in Ksubis, I'm not interested. I'm not interested in what the Chachamim have provided for me. The asset doesn't transfer. Let's say a person say, with Yerusha an heir. Person's father dies, and before he dies, he makes a public statement in front of Bezdin. He doesn't want to be an heir of his father. Do the assets transfer? They transfer. Torah says a person's an heir, transfers automatically. You want to afterwards, you want to relinquish the ownership, that's a separate discussion. But initially, the assets transfer, the estate transfers from the father to the child. But if it's a rabbinic, the rabbis are transferring it. That has to do with hefker bezin hefker. You don't want it? I mean, they could force it into his domain. They can. But if you say you're not interested, no problem. We only did it to be in your best interest. If you're not interested, we don't transfer it. But if they would want to transfer, they can transfer it, even against the person's will. I mean, once they transfer, you have a right to relinquish it, to forfeit it. But the transfer would take place if they want to. But they don't, because they're only doing it to be in your interest. But if you're not interested, we don't do it. It is hefker bezin. That is hefker bezin hefker. It is hefker. You don't need zochen. That's not zochen mishul b'fonov. It's like a person, the husband has payros, is a beneficiary of the profits of his wife's properties. Person says, I'm not interested. We're only doing it because a husband has certain responsibilities to his wife. If he doesn't receive that, he has those responsibilities. So we want to give him incentives to encourage him to act responsibly as a husband. Man says, look, I'll act responsibly without all the incentives. I'm not interested. You're not interested? Okay, we don't transfer it.
It's like years, big kiddushin with the Torah interpretation. Because if a court cannot do this, in the case of a minor,
What does the court have to do with...
I'm just saying, I mean, normally it's a legal process. We're talking about a legal mechanism. How does someone become an owner of something? It's a legal, it's purely legal process. Here the Torah says, we're going to make this person the agent of this minor, but the court doesn't have such a power. That's a big chiddush to me.
The court doesn't have the power.
It does not have the power. That's the truth.
No, the person could be the agent, but the function is not as an agent. I'll give you an example. Give you an example. The halacha is a person takes a get. A person, before we get to the get, a person sees an ownerless object in a certain location. And he approaches it, and he wants to acquire it, and it's within his dalet amos, within his 4 cubits. What's the halacha? He acquires it, but the 4 cubits are not yours. How do they become? So what is the act of acquisition? What? No, because it's considered your chotzer. Anything with your dalet amos is considered the equivalent of your courtyard, your domain. So anything which enters into your domain you acquire. So the dalet amos is your chotzer. No. We're talking about no, not somebody else's yard. It doesn't work. We're talking about kiddushin rabin. It's an ownerless location. An ownerless location. You approach that location first before someone else enters into that. That object, item, becomes your item. It's not yours. Not yours. Its usage is for the public to use. Right? It's a public usage location. You're there, it's within your dalet amos. Now, why you acquire it? It's rabbinical. On a Torah level, you don't require it. Because the Chachamim say, now, there's a machlokes we've shown him now, and this is what I'm getting to with David. But what is the manner of acquisition? Is it they transfer the ownership at that moment of the location? So literally the location is your location. So now the object is lying in your location. So what is the acquisition? It's acquisition of chotzer. Or do we say no? When it's within your dalet amos, then we apply the principle hefker bezin hefker that we transfer the item. So the acquisition is not chotzer. But when it's in your dalet amos, which appears to be your domain, that's when we transfer the item. No, the nafkamina is. The item, is it the acquisition, a Torah acquisition? Because it's within the because you've acquired it through chotzer? Well, no, there's a hefker bezin hefker. Where does it come up? Here you say it really doesn't make a difference. It comes up by get. The Gemara says the same thing. If a man throws a get, a man puts a get in his wife's domain, she's divorced. So let's say you have a similar situation. He puts the get within her dalet amos. Right? Off the beaten path, ownerless location. He puts it in within her dalet amos, she's divorced. We rule, it's a mission. She's divorced. Now the question is, why is she divorced? Is she divorced because the get was put into a chotzer? Because Chazal said, rabbinically, that the domain is your domain, so the get was put in your domain. Or do we say no? Now, if one doesn't leave a get, why is the marriage? Why does marriage no longer exist? If she did actually receive the get, there's a concept known as afkinu rabban l'kdushimino, that they're able to annul the marriage. Retroactively, the marriage is annulled. The Chazal say, when something comes within your 4 cubits, since normally within your domain, if it was your domain, you would be divorced because your domain is your domain. So once the get comes within your domain, we act as if you received the get, but factually, the mechanics why you're no longer a married woman is because we annul the marriage retroactively. So it comes out the woman who's never married. It's not she was married until now, we terminate the marriage. It appears as if it's a divorce. So factually, the get is not really terminating the marriage. What's terminating the marriage is because we're annulling the marriage. Rabbinically, she'll be a rabbinic grusha. On a Torah level, she's not a grusha. So she marries a Kohen on a Torah level. The kids are not chalolim. They're not. They're qualified Kohanim because she was never married. No, but rabbinically, she's still that. We treat her like a divorcee. We still rabbinically we treat her like a divorcee. Children also are chalolim. They are on the Torah level. Rabbinically, they're chalolim. They're not. They're rabbinic chalolim. Like it's a Mishnah. A ben grusha meant chalutza, right? Child of a divorced woman, a Kohen, he's not a functional Kohen. What about if his mother received chalitza? She was a woman, a widow, and then afterwards, instead of the man performing yibum, he gave a chalitza, and now subsequently she marries a Kohen. Torah permits a chalitza to a Kohen. Rabbinically, she's not permitted. Why? Because what is chalitza? People equate one to the other. She was bound. She was a woman who was bound. She wasn't permitted to marry him. And she was released through the act of chalitza, similar to the get. So they rabbinically, since people will confuse the two, rabbinically, a Kohen is not permitted to marry chalutza. So all the consequences, the ramifications of a chalutza are identical to a man marrying a grusha, a Kohen. So here are the same thing. Factually, we see her, she was divorced. The marriage no longer exists. And how did it come about? She received the get. But in reality, why is she divorced? Not because she received the get. Because the Chacham, they annulled the marriage. Afkinu rabban l'kdushim, Okay? No, they don't. That's a fact. They don't transfer it. If they would transfer the location, she'd be a grusha midoraisa. She is. But it's not they continuously, they transfer it, then they remove it. They don't do that. It appears that, when it appears that, then they say, you know something? The consequence of that is similar as if it would be a chotzer. But in reality, it's not your chotzer.
Everyone agrees.
No, it's a machlok shushonim. I'm saying it's a machlok shushonim. On one side, that's the question is, did they transfer the location? The other side, they don't transfer the location. We only act.
The Torah considers your Adalad Amos as your space.
No. No. On the Torah level, it's not. What relevance? Why should it be your space? No. A chotzer is a court. It's your domain. What does domain mean? Monetarily, it's yours. It's your asset. You own it. So therefore, this is a public location. What relevance do you have to it? You have no relevance, right? You have no relevance. Rabbinically, the Chachamim said that if it would be not the main thoroughfare, it would be off to the side, okay, where your usage doesn't infringe on other people, okay? It's a machlokes. That's a machlokes. That's a machlokes in the Gemara. It's a machlokes tanoim. That's a machlokes. If it would be literally in the public thoroughfare, okay? We're talking about it's off to the side, where people do leave their bundles there, people do leave their packages there.
That's where this concept.
Everybody agrees. Nobody disagrees there. That location, if an ownless object would be there, you enter within its 4 cubits, you acquire it. Now the question is, what exactly is the mechanism of that acquisition? Is it because Chazal, they transfer that location to you for that moment, and then afterwards they remove that ownership? Or do they say, no, you never owned it. We only treat it as if you own it. Factually, you don't Only, but factually, why is it yours? Because they transfer you the object. Hefker bezin hefker. So the halachic difference would be regarding the get, right? Is she divorced, or she was never married?
According to this dispute,
That's Rishonim.
bona fide
Rishus Harabim.
how does that go?
No, you don't. They never transferred nothing. There, nothing happens.
What is the dispute there?
No. Did they say that if anything which is within your dollar amos, we treat it as if it would be off to the side?
Well, but it's the same mechanics.
Same mechanics, either way. Same mechanics.
If the marriage was announced retroactively and the wife was working and the husband was getting his salary because of the arrangement.
No, you don't have to return anything because we still, the way we behave, it's as if she was married. So it's not he has to return all the assets that he took, that he benefited from.
Doesn't do with your rights and obligations?
No, of course not. Shev al tasa. Right? He can't officiate. Right? Ben Grush ben Chalutza. No, he can't go into a cemetery. Cannot go into a cemetery. What? Also, definitely doesn't get a. No, that's it. Li is nothing.
His prohibitions diraisa, and he can't do his chiyuv and diraisa.
So that's, it's like not blowing shofar for Rosh Hashanah. That falls out on Shabbos. Can I eat truma? We treat him like Yisrael. It's only not to be mitame. Otherwise, everything else is shev al tasa. Right? Everything else is a shev al tasa. Call him as Yisrael. You do call him Yisrael because factually we treat him like Yisrael. Right? That we give the Kohen. There's all rabbinical, right? The order of the. That's it. Could you relinquish your rights as a Jew? Your responsibilities as a Jew? No, we just said it. You are what you are. You can't change who you are. An asset, I owed something. Could I relinquish my right to an asset? Cohen is not an asset. Cohen is what you are. No. He's asking if the father's a Cohen, married a kosher woman. So of course he's a Cohen. How do you relinquish that?
You can't say, I don't want to be a Cohen anymore.
You could say what you want, but you are a Cohen. I'll give you an example. That you could appreciate. Person has a 60 IQ. He shows up at work. He says, I have 180 IQ. Okay. You still, nothing has changed.
Also, when there's a object in the small animal, I thought we learned that in the Talmud you have to sort of get up and bring it in.
No, not a chotzer. No, it's chotzer. It's kinyan chotzer. Something falls in your domain, you don't have to do anything. Nothing. Well, if you would hold that Dalarams does not work within a true public domain, right? Because they're not going to give you an area where it's an infringement on public usage. So there, if you see an ownless object, the only way you're going to acquire it, you have to pick it up. You have to pick up the object to acquire it. Because the domain acquisition has no relevance. Okay? So how does the Ran deal with this? So the Ramban wants to bring a proof from the Gemara's answer. Zochalam Shalom B'fonov. So you see clearly that Tzchi is not mitam shlichus. Because the Gemara's original difficulty was the Nasi represents a minor. And if a minor can have a shliach, so now we're saying Zechiyah, so even within the context of Zechiyah, but if Zechiyah, the one who's doing the act to benefit the other third party, he's his agent, but again, we're back to the same question. So you see, clearly, Zechiyah cannot be Shlichus. That's the Ramban. So Ran says there's no proof. Because we can see in the Gemara that the Gemara is going to fall off this. The Gemara is going to say it cannot be Zechiyah. Because let's say a person's not satisfied with the portion that the Nasi picked for him. Person says, something, I like a mountainous region. Person says, something, I prefer a valley. So one person's preferences is not what another person's interested in. So every person has his likes and dislikes. So whatever they received, they were forced to receive. If you want to give me a gift, acquire a gift on my behalf, which I have no interest. You can't. It's only the tzchus. right? So I can say to him, no, thank you. No, thank you. I don't acquire. Correct? But what about dividing up the Eretz Yisrael? Whatever portion the Nasi chose, whoever it may be, that became his portion. Whether you like it or don't like it. So the Gemara is going to say in a moment, how could you tell me that the acquisition is based on the principle of Zchiyah? Because the people were beneficiaries. And therefore he was able to act on their behalf, although it's not Shlichus, we'll learn like the Ramban. But factually, what happens if the recipient, he's not satisfied with his portion? So the Gemara is going to say clear, it's not Zchiyah. See, clearly it's not a principle of Zchiyah, but rather it's some other principle. It's like, so we'll see, maybe there's a concept known as guardianship. The Torah appointed the Nasi to be the guardian. And whatever the guardian seems fit for the person he represents, it's good enough. It's not Shliach, it's not Zchiyah, he's a guardian. Yeah, but that will, but you have to have a source. So right now we're saying it's Zchiyah. So it can't be Zchiyah. Zchiyah means where it's beneficial to the recipient. What about the recipient says it's not beneficial to me?
Weren't all these allocations of the land done by lot? Wasn't there some sort of a divine intervention? So
that's the way the Ran learns. The Ran learns that it's called a Gilug Milsa. What the Nasi was doing, he was only revealing what was meant to be yours. It's not he chose to give you A or B or C, right?
it was a lottery.
No, because it was lottery. It was divine. It was divinely picked. So the reason why, so whether you like it or dislike, what's the Nasi doing? He's not doing the acquisition. He's only choosing. He's only revealing what God chose for you. He's only identifying. It's like the lawyer calling the whatever it is, opening the will and saying this was bequeathed to you. That's it. It's not Zchiyah. So the Gemara is going to fall off this. It's not Zchiyah. So the Ran says, at this point, when the Gemara first answers Zchiyah, it's true. It's clear it's not Zchiyah mitam shlichus. But the Gemara says, but it can't be that. The understanding is a mistake. So after everything's said and done, what is Zchiyah? The only reason why we were forced to say Zchiyah is not, the mechanics is not shlichus, because we had an issue with the minor. So we said, you know something, it's Zchiyah. So if it's the minor, it can't be shlichus. But the Gemara says, but it's clear it's not Zchiyah. Because if the minor is not satisfied, so how could it be Zchiyah? So we're saying it's something else. What is it? He's only revealing what the Torah wants to be his. So then we could go back to the original understanding. That what is the mechanics of Zchiyah? He's the agent. Because what forced me to understand it differently, the minor was the issue. But now even the minor was saying it's clearly it's not Zchiyah either. So if that's the case, there's no reason to understand it different than we originally understood it. That what exactly is the mechanics of Zchiyah? Because we would say with certainty that if you're aware that you want to do something which is I'm a beneficiary of, I would want you to be my agent. This is how the Ran learns the Gemara. Therefore, there's no proof. Again, what forces me to learn that Zchiyah cannot be shlichus? Because the issue of the minor, right? So we say, what is the mechanics? Zchiyah. Why is it Zchiyah? Because the minor is a beneficiary of what the Nasi does on his behalf. So the Gemara says, but it's not Zchiyah. Because what happens if the minor is not satisfied with what the Nasi did for him? So we have to say it's a whole different, he's functioning in a different capacity. So once we have another answer to say how the Nasi represents the child, he's not a representative of the child. He's only acting on behalf of the Torah to reveal what each person's portion is. So now we go back to the original understanding what Zchiyah is. What is the principle of Zchiyah? Because we could say with certainty that if you would want to do something which is my best interest, I would want you to be my agent.
But in this case,
What? It's not, the Gemara is going to say it's not Zchiyah. I just say what it is. How did they receive? No, what it is, it's yours. Why is it yours? Because God said it's yours. It's like a Yerusha. So if that's the case, what is the Nasi only? He's only opening, he's only revealing. He's a representative of God. He's not Betrupis. That's all. He's distributing the estate. That's all it is. He's reading the will, and the will says son A receives this and son B receives that. That's all he's doing. Has nothing to do with Zchiyah. So, but what is Zchiyah now? There's no reason now to have a different understanding, the original understanding. Zchiyah, of course, you're a shliach. Of course, if he would know, He definitely would appoint you.
But if the person doesn't want it, like he wants another, that's understandable. But it's like you would have to actively revoke it and say, like, I don't want this part.
So if you don't want it, then you have nothing. Then you have nothing.
So that would work. That would work the same way. If someone's going to benefit from me, they bought me a book, but I don't want the.
No, then it was never yours. It's not you relinquishing. Somebody wants to do something on your behalf. Why can he represent you? Because I'm a beneficiary. I said, I never want you to represent me. So it was never yours. Because here the Torah says it's your portion. You get, whatever it is, you're going to get 10 acres of not the best quality land. So you relinquish something that's yours. It's not the same at all.
What you said is just have a question now. In terms of the way the land was divided, we say that it goes back to the ones who left Egypt.
They have a right in the land that's portion-wise, but which portion?
But that's what we're talking about.
Correct.
And it's not the people who were there then. It goes back to the original.
No, wait a second, we
So
understand
that's
that.
how you understand how it gets divided. Because if a man...
No, that's portion, but which portion?
That portion Hashem determined through prophetic...
No, Hashem didn't determine anything. God said, this is yours, and that's it.
No, but I mean, it was revealed...
It was revealed by the Nasi
by the Nasi
through the lottery, which had to do with the divine.
So essentially what maybe we can say that what that does is it puts the ownership back on those who are deceased. And then it's just automatic as the laws of inheritance.
It's similar to that.
So that the minor has no issue with it. If a minor inherits something, we say the ownership transfers immediately. And it doesn't
That's
matter
exactly,
what
that's
I don't like it,
basically,
I
that's
like
the
it.
Ran. That's basically what the Ran is, that is what the Ran is saying. So all the Nasi is saying is, he's revealing what the inheritance is.
So it was the laws of inheritance.
Basically,
It goes back to
correct,
those
correct,
who
correct,
were
correct, correct, that's all it is.
He's not representing.
He's, exactly,
There's no representation.
no, he's acting on the minor's interest to give him what is rightfully his, not an agent. He's not an,
Not an agent.
not an agent. He's a guardian. He's a guardian, that's all he is. To do what's in the best interest of the minor, to give him what's rightfully his.
So how, where would the Ran, or where would the Ramban, or Tosfot learn Zechia from? How does, is that just a Sephora, or what is it?
It's a svara. Well, according to the way Tosla, it's a svara.
It's a Sephora.
That's all it is. Because we could say with certainty you would have appointed this man to be your agent. It's a svara. According to the Ramban, that it's not. It's a whole different concept. He needs a pasuk, right? Even according to Ramban, I mean, what the Ran is saying really is really compelling. Factually, the Gemara does not remain with this. The Gemara falls off this. So why is the Ramban somehow stuck with it? Why is he stuck there? So he's learning the Ramban. That the Gemara even entertained it is an indication it doesn't have to be shlichus. No, it doesn't have to be shlichus. So the Ran says no. Yes, so the Ran says no. There we were forced to say it at that point. Right? Because we didn't have any other way to understand it. Then the Gemara says no, it's incorrect. Right, exactly. The Ran says no, we were forced to say that. So now that we're no longer forced to understand it that way, we revert back to what's more logical. Logical is what? Because if you know with certainty he's representing, you would want it to be your shliach. It's a svara. Which the Gemara fell off of. Right, which was proven that it cannot be. He must have other there are other locations that we say schia. There are other locations we say schia. Seemingly, this is the source. The source would be nasi echad. That each nasi, you just can't apply there. That's what, so that's the Ran saying. He's rejecting it. Right? La halacha we rule, you see clearly from Tosas throughout Shas, schiyas mitam shlichus. Right? The mechanics of schia is shlichus. That's what he says. See, there's a whole discussion that we discussed. We speak about a chotzer. The Gemara says in Bav Metzia, a chotzer is mitam shlichus. The way a chotzer functions is mitam shlichus. Those are the words of the Gemara. So according to that, a minor cannot acquire through a chotzer, right? So there's a whole discussion over there. If you'd say a third party is representing me, so we could say with certainty I would have appointed him. a domain, what you appoint a domain. You don't appoint a domain. Torah says a domain, it's the equivalent of your agent. It's the extension of yourself, right? So therefore, if you learn like that, if you learn like Rashi, it's very good, right? A chotzer is your shliach. The Torah says that is the equivalent of yourself. But factually, others say, Rishon, a minor cannot have a chotzer. Because if the function of the chotzer is shliach and a minor, so there's a proof from some Rishonim that it's because you want the chotzer to represent you. Similarly, we spoke about finding the treasure in the wall. I want my chotzer to acquire on my behalf. It's similar to the agent. So since a minor doesn't have that, he doesn't have the intent to want, in that case the chotzer cannot represent you.
The minor can inherit the chotzer, and then he would own the chotzer, and the chotzer is...
Correct?
So what happens if a minor owns property through inheritance and something falls into the property?
So that's the question. Could a
What's
minor...
the status of that?
It's a question. It's a machlokas. It's an argument. Whether his chotzer acquires or doesn't acquire on his behalf. If you say it requires some degree of appointmentship, then he has no relevance to it. But if you say the reality, because Torah says it is your agent, then he would acquire on a Torah level. To be continued.